Ah, the Philippines. The country with more than 7,000 islands. I spent 10 days there, and here's what I can tell you from my own experiences, and I hope that this video can help you plan out your trip there, especially if you're going for the very first time. But wait, before we talk about all the beautiful stuff, let's talk about the most important things for you to know before you go there. First thing you have to know as a first-time traveler is the Philippines safe. Yes, it is safe. I have not found myself in any instance feeling unsafe. I have been out and about both day and night, but mostly in touristic or westernized areas, which I believe will be your case as well if you're traveling there as a tourist. But it's also important to note that I have not been in Manila, where the safety requirement can be a little bit more tricky and you have to check well before you go in certain areas. When you travel to any country, it's important to know how the people over there are. And in the Philippines, oh my God, you will feel so welcome wherever you go. Filipinos are so approachable and always willing to help, and they just have a general fascination with tourists. Their hospitality is just on another level.
Are you tired?
No, not tired.
Next most important consideration when you travel to the Philippines is affordability. I would consider the Philippines still an affordable country, but that's a relative statement and really depends on your lifestyle. But if you are a budget traveler like me and you don't mind getting Airbnbs, being in crowds and using public transport, then your money in the Philippines will take you a long way. Here are a few comparisons and things to know when budgeting in the Philippines. First is transport. Outside of major cities, to be honest, transportation is a little bit more tricky for outsiders like you and me in the Philippines. Renting a car in the Philippines is quite expensive at about 2,000 pesos per day. But you can also opt out and go for a scooter, which will cost you between 300 to 500 pesos per day. And just make sure you have a bike license, as you don't want to run in any trouble with the Philippines police. The most common forms of transportation in the Philippines by both locals and tourists is by the minivan. You will find them everywhere across the Philippines, and you will pretty much find one wherever you want to be transited across the Philippines. It might not be the most comfortable way of transportation, but it will save you quite a bit, and you will be able to see more of the countrysides on the long drives. An example of this will be if you want to travel from Puerto Princesa to El Nido in Palawan. It will cost you 700 pesos to travel by minivan for a more than 6 hours journey. In the Philippines, most likely you will be island hopping, as the Philippines has some of the best island destinations in the world. For island hopping, there are other alternative ways of transportation which will be much cheaper than flying, such as the ferry, which is worth considering whenever you want to transit from one island to the next in the Philippines. Before we jump into food and accommodation, let's look at the best places to see whenever you travel to the Philippines, especially as a first-timer. Here are some of the best things that you can do and places that you can check out in the Philippines from my own experiences and which I can totally recommend to you. Bohol Island. Bohol Island is where you have famous chocolate hills. You might be wondering how it gets the name of Chocolate Hills. It is because during the dry season, the greenery on top of a geological formation here turns brown. That is where it gets the name of Chocolate Hills. And also the Tarsiers, which is the second smallest primate in the entire world. And one definite must-see is Palawan. Palawan is considered to be one of the world's best island destinations. In Palawan, you can experience and enjoy the postcard azure-colored water, the crystal clear lagoons, and the incredible beaches. Trust me, I've been there. It is really like that and completely unbelievable. And don't forget to check out Puerto Princesa and Palawan, where you will experience some of the most picturesque scenery that Philippines have to offer, and also some of the coolest natural wonders, such as the underground river in Puerto Princesa. And if you are really adventurous, then take the 2 days journey to go deep into the mountain province of the Philippines to meet and get tattooed by the oldest tattoo artist in the world. Yes, she is in the Philippines and she is 105 years old, and she still enjoys tattooing using the ancient method that her tribe used for centuries to tattoo warriors. When it comes to accommodation, you will find a wide array of hotels, from budget to high-end, and you will most certainly find something that will suit your budget. As a guide, you can find a really decent budget hotel with all necessary amenities for about 1,000 pesos per night. When it comes to food, food can still be considered as affordable in the Philippines, with a street meal costing around 200 pesos, and in a mid-range restaurant, a meal for two can cost between 1,000 to 1,200 pesos. In the Philippines, you can find all sorts of cuisines, but I will recommend to try some of the local dishes, such as Lechon, which is roasted pork but in the Filipino style, and bulalo, which is a meat soup and very tasty. And Philippines is well known for its exotic street food, such as the grilled chicken intestine, and if you have a stomach for it, you can also try balut. Balut is a boiled fertilized egg, and you can find it pretty much everywhere around the Philippines. And if you ever find yourself in Puerto Princesa, you can try their local delicacy, which is the Tamilok, otherwise known as Woodworm. To conclude, if you're ever thinking of traveling to the Philippines, then do it. You will most certainly not regret it. The breathtaking landscape, the people, the food will make you love Philippines and maybe come back again. So that's it from me, and if you find some value from this video, consider subscribing and liking. I will see you in the next one.